Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lei'd Back Life. If you are here to listen to some of our amazing guests, like in prior episodes, I'm sorry, it's just going to be me this time. However, I think we're talking about a very specific topic, and there's a reason I'm talking about this by myself. I want to go over the organization of a great life. We've heard from so many great guests at this point about different tips and tricks and their perspective. So I want to give you my specific organization of having a great life, because it's easy for us to talk about more and always go over adding more things to our plate and getting more things on our plate. But if you have the organization of a great life, there's a component of that where it's getting things off of your plate, whether you delegate them to somebody else, whether you automate them, etc. So I want to make sure that we do this episode without a guest, because I really want to hammer this conversation, right? So in essence, this is one of these really interesting concepts, this organization of a great life, right? Like, what do Luke Skywalker and Bruce Wayne and my Hawaiian shirt collection all have in common? You know, Luke had to get organized to learn the Force. Bruce Wayne has to be super organized to have time to be Batman and have the Batcave figured out and know where everything is in the utility belt. And ultimately, like, I need to find the right Hawaiian shirt for the moment. You all are listening to this on April 8th. This is actually recorded on St. Patty's Day, hence the green. And apologize in advance to my editing team for giving you a green shirt on a green background. But, you know, we'll work your magic if you can. So I want to start with this concept that David Allen has from Getting Things Done. If you haven't read Getting Things Done, I highly suggest that you do. It's one of the best books on getting things done, right? He talks about, though, having a mind like water. So this is a concept that goes back to Bruce Lee and martial arts, and it talks about having your mind set up like water, right? So water adapts. It flows around obstacles. It remains calm and yet powerful. And over time, like that drip, drip, drip can create the Grand Canyon. So it's a really cool concept. And unfortunately, as we get more technologically advanced, things get faster, we get pulled in more directions, we lose this opportunity of having a mind like water. So I want to go through what I do to keep my mind like water. It's part organization, part mental clarity, part mindfulness. All those things come together, not in a really cool way where, like, I'm going to become a monk and live in the woods, but in a really cool way where I can run multiple businesses and spend a bunch of time with my friends and family and go grab lunch with people and play pickleball and have hobbies, because I have this organization structure, right? So I want to start with what is a mind like water? You know, obviously it's having your mind operate like water with the adapting, with the flowing around obstacles. But at its core, it's responding appropriately to each situation. It's neither overreacting nor underreacting. And so, like, next week, we're going to talk about stoicism. Like, this is very similar to that. It's having the right reaction. It's not, you know, taking out the fly with a bazooka, but using a fly swatter. And at the same time, it's not trying to prevent your entire business from shutting down based upon spending 15 minutes here and there when you can, right? Like, it's having the right response. This is Yoda teaching Luke to maintain that calm amid the chaos, right? To get the X-Wing out of the swamp of Dagobah. You know, don't panic, respond like a Jedi. Which is really interesting, because last week we had Bo Atkins on, right? So we talked about walking your self-development journey. Bo did this from the beach, you know, and so literally in the last episode, we had a conversation with water involved in it and developing yourself. So this is definitely part of it, right? Like, it's taking those steps to become the best you that Bo talked about, and then actually putting them into the framework of having this mind like water, right? So here's where we need to start. We need to develop clarity. The human brain was not designed to store information. It was designed to process information. Your brain is not Google Drive. It's the processor on your computer. So the first step is completely try and remove from your brain the storage of things. I know that sounds sort of simple, right? So this is not like you are going to go shopping and hope you remember what to do. This is having a shopping list. When it comes in your brain, put it on your shopping list. If you know you go food shopping every Tuesday, book time before that to look through your house and see what else you need to order. I use Alexa for this. So this way my 7-year-old can add things to the list as well. I'm not always going to buy them. I promise you, if it were up to him, we would buy snacks and only snacks. We don't. However, it's really easy for him to say, hey, Alexa, and then, fill in from there. So that's our input situation for that example. And then when I am at the supermarket with my phone, I can pull up the shopping list. If it's tasks that you need to do for work, it's putting them in to a CRM, putting them into a case management system, making sure they are in there. I don't care if it's stuff that you are never going to do. I have a someday maybe list. I have a business ideas list for things that have sat there for years, but I know that they are stored in a specific place. If the mood strikes and I want to finish this book about this guy in the Midwest who has aliens crash land in his backyard from the stem and then figures out how to market it as a marketing parable, I have my whole outline sitting there. I know that every month I'm going to have a meeting and I'm going to review those creative ideas and review those business ideas and review that someday maybe. And when I'm looking for my next vacation, when I'm looking for my next project, when I'm looking for my next digital product, when I'm looking for my next, whatever it is, I know where it is and I know that I'm going to have the time to look at it in those meetings. So I am not worried about trying to keep it in my brain, right? The other thing that I love, I'm totally stealing this from David Allen, is the 2-minute rule. If something is going to take 2 minutes or less to do, just do it. And to be fair, this probably started as a 10-minute rule and then became a 5-minute rule and now a 2-minute rule or maybe even a 1-minute rule, right? Like if it took 10 minutes, I didn't have anybody else delegate it to, I would just go ahead and do it. So figuring out those things to get stuff out of your brain and down into a specific place. And if it takes 2 minutes or less to do it, just do it flat out. Don't worry about delegating it. Don't let it take up mental energy. Don't let it take up space in your brain. I cannot stress this enough. It seems so simple. Just get it done. The other thing about clearing your mental inbox is there are opportunities where you can throw money at a problem and solve it. That might be hiring somebody to cut your lawn. That might be hiring an executive assistant to do administrative tasks. That might be paying money we forgot to return some modem to our internet company. So I can figure out how to track it down to get into our former office to get it moved over there, or I can pay them $150 and resolve this problem. Not always are you going to be in the financial position to just throw money at problems. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. You're not always going to be able to do that. And the amount of money that you're willing to spend is going to change based upon things. For me, if it was, $25 or less, I didn't want to know. Now I've worked up to probably $150, $250. And then ultimately there's stuff on our SOPs that's $500 or $600 a year that gets paid that you don't have to bother me with those. They're on the SOPs, they're set. And so determining what's that point of coming to me is great because I'm keeping my mental inbox full. The other part of this is getting things out of your brain. It's brain dumping. So I journal before I go to bed. I understand that for some people that would be terrible. It would not be what you want to do. For me, I like it. So one of the questions I ask in my journal is, what questions am I thinking about? And a lot of times I will have dreams or I'll wake up with an answer to those questions. So I like doing it at the end of my day. It is out of my brain. It's in its place. If I want to text somebody the next day, I will set a reminder on my phone that night, or I'll type it up and have it sent later. I'm trying to get everything that is taking place in my brain and get it out, down into my journal, into my phone, onto my calendar for the next day, emailed out to my team, and just completely dumping as many things out of my brain. To be fair, I would say I accomplish that 80% of the time. Those other 20% of the time, I will get the stuff out of my brain. And then as I get all those things out, I will have time for something else to pop into my brain, right? So it's not 100%, but having this process of clearing your mental inbox is so, so, so amazing. I would suggest set time every day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. It might be at the end of your workday. It might be at the end of your day, whatever makes the most sense for you, and just get this stuff done and out of your brain. I think it also helps me sleep. I certainly sleep a lot better now. For those of you that follow me, I've written newsletters on sleep. I've really dived into this. So like there could be other reasons, but this has certainly been helpful, just sort of getting everything out of my brain and into a place. That being said, you don't want to give yourself more to worry about by putting things in different places, right? So I talked about getting stuff on the Amazon Alexa list for a shopping list. I use my email as a task management system for certain things, for like small, quick tasks. I want my assistant to put things on my calendar. If I'm going to review something or I'm looking into a website or there's something I want to decide for us to buy or not, I want it calendared with the time to do it already. So I've got different places where I put things, but I know where I'm putting those things. So I want to make sure that when you do this brain dump, you are putting things in the right place. Most often, we are taught when you are looking for something and you find it, you put it back where you found it. That being said, I have a wife and a child. So for all of us, if it is not your thing, put it back where you found it, because hopefully that's the first place the person whose thing it is will look for it. So for example, my child's toys kind of go everywhere, at least in his playroom and his bedroom. At some point, I hope that all the army men go back in his army men drawer. Not always going to be the case, but if I need to grab an army man for, I don't know, filming or something like that, I'm going to put it back where I found it, which is hopefully in the army men drawer. That's certainly the place that I looked for it first. But if they're all over his floor because he was setting up, the recreation of some military strategy battle according to a 7-year-old, I'll put it back where I found it. So that's the one caveat. If it's not yours, put it back where you found it. Also, put things back in the right condition. And so I love this from the concept of a junk drawer, right? Like I believe everybody who's listening to this, certainly me, has that drawer that has a bunch of plastic bags and paper bags and whatnot in it. Like that is the bag junk drawer. I think all of us have it. But when it comes to the other junk drawer, we have different things in it, right? So at some point, you might have enough things that they go from a junk drawer to organized. For example, we used to have a Ziploc bag with all of my son's art supplies. But as he got more into art, we then got a 3 or a 5-tier organization shelf. And there's the crayons and the colored pencils and the construction paper and the crazy scissors with the different shapes and stuff like that. So you have to determine what the right level of organization is, and it will change over time. So for example, I hang my Hawaiian shirts up in my closet. I think it would be awesome if they were hung up and maintained in Roy G. Biv color scheme, so that, for example, on St. Patrick's Day, when I'm looking for a green shirt, I know exactly where it is. That's too anal for me. I am willing to admit that, right? So it's not just putting things back where you first looked for them, it's organizing where they are. The beauty of this from a digital standpoint, search has become great. So for my digital photos, it is amazing that I can look for like a word in the photo. I can look for where we took it. I can look for when we got it. I have all sorts of examples of different things that we can search for. It's fine just having them in my Google Photos folder or my iPhone Photos folder. That's great. If I was a professional photographer, though, I would probably have it nested under when I did the shoot, what the shoot is of, all of those things. So put things back where you first found them and then figure out how much information, how specific you want to get, how dare I say anal you want to be about your organization from there. Because here's the reality of all of this. You can always do more. You can always make things more complex. You can always make things more complicated. But we have this problem. I don't know if it's all business owners, all lawyer business owners, all whatever. We oftentimes endlessly chase optimization rather than clarity, rather than effectiveness, rather than fun, right? Like we don't want to create a list for the standpoint of destroying our life. We want to create a list for the standpoint of embracing our life. So for me, like optimization is meaningless without a clear purpose. If I am trying to work less so that I can pick up my kid from school every day, I am optimizing for that outcome. Optimization is meaningless without a clear purpose. This is one of the best things, I think, from the book 4,000 Weeks. Like, we get in these productivity hacks of how quickly can we do things, but if we never look at why, there's no winning. Because if I took this brief and got it from 10 hours down to 5, down to 2, down to an hour and a half, now I'm trying to get it down to an hour. Instead, if I really looked at like, what's the specific purpose? I have briefs that I'm filing for the purpose of winning a case. I have briefs that we're going through for the purpose of getting a client more money. How much time does it need to have the impact I am looking for? Same thing with life. This is it doesn't matter how organized Batman's gear is going to be, right? Like, it means nothing until he faces that villain, until he knows where the right chemical to offset Bane's stuff is, where the right thing he needs to foil the Joker. Like, that's the organization that matters. It is the purpose he's going for. So as you look to build these lists, as you look to have these places to put things, as you look for this organizational structure, make sure you are thinking about your purpose. What are you doing this for? So we talked about, this mental inbox zero, right? I talked about doing this brain dump and knowing where you're going to put things. And then we talked about how organized those places need to be. So like my shopping list, it's just straight there. I will say Amazon naturally blocks things together. So it has all the produce together. It has all the whatever else together, which is great. I'm not telling it to add it to the produce section. I'm just telling it to add it to the list. We talked about search. You don't have to find photos too crazy. You've got a bunch of different options. So figuring those things out, journaling, meditation, mindfulness, etc. But to take that and tie it to our purpose, you need to have real boundaries. Brene Brown says boundaries are the point at which you can love the other person and yourself. You need to have boundaries. Boundaries around tasks, boundaries around your time, boundaries. Otherwise, one, you're going to be miserable, because two, or maybe and two, or but two, I don't know, you're going to run into Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law says, absent an external force, work expands to fill the time allotted. So if you do not set the boundary of working 9 to 5, you will find a way to work from 9 to 8:59 the next day. If you don't set a boundary for this brief takes 2 hours, you will find a way to make it into a 5-hour project. You need that Parkinson's law boundary set. It's the point that you can love yourself and the other person, because that's what we talk about usually, boundaries with other people, right? Like, I'm not going to let my clients call me on a Saturday morning when there's not an emergency. If it is, we'll deal with it. But ultimately, I need that boundary to love them and myself. We're not necessarily talking about that as the same interpersonal relationship boundaries here, but it's still super important. Set those boundaries. And again, go back to having a purpose, right? Like, I don't stop working at 5 because it's arbitrary. Yes, it's the common time that everybody works. However, 5 o'clock allows me to either go pick up our son from aftercare at the right time where he has had a chance to play and see his friends, or if my wife is picking him up, cook dinner and have dinner ready for them to get back at 5:20, 5:30, whatever it is, along those lines. Like, I have that boundary for a specific purpose. That purpose being time with my family, that purpose being time with my son, that purpose being having dinner ready. That's why I stopped working at 5. So it's not just efficiency, it's to protect your well-being. Boundaries aren't just practical, they're essential for protecting your life and relationships. I will give you 2 caveats about boundaries. It is always okay to break through your boundaries if you are 100% certain about it. So I work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. That's it. But I don't do that 100% of the time. I do that 95% of the time, 99% of the time. If I have a speaking opportunity at some amazing group of wonderful law firm owners who I think would be great clients for me, and that has to be on a Tuesday or a Friday, I will find a way to make it work, unless there's something crazy, right? Like, I will go outside my boundary, but I'm very, very clear about when we go outside the boundary. I have, we have a specific thing with our team. What are actual emergencies, right? Like, if I have a client who literally is in an accident calling me from the side of the road, it's going to be easier for my intake person to take that and pass it to one of the lawyers or something along those lines. Like, that is a true emergency. There are things going on now. That's the first caveat. So I am setting boundaries for the goal of hitting them almost all the time, right? Like when you get on an airplane, there's a ton of checklists. However, the pilot also knows when to take the checklist and throw them out the window and land the plane in the Hudson. Like this, we have boundaries for a reason, not to be 100%, but to be close to it. So we have that enjoyment. 2, you, by the same token, you're not going to hit what you have set to do 100% of the time. So the other part of boundaries is building in buffer time. So I am going to go to the gym 99% of the time, Tuesday and Thursday. I am also going to go 99% of the time, one of the weekend days, but I can't always control whether that's Saturday or Sunday. So my boundary is not like, you can't book me for Saturday morning, wife. I can go to that. Doesn't matter enough to me. However, my team doesn't book me for stuff on Tuesday and doesn't book me until 10 o'clock on Thursday. So I can hit those. And then I can go to the gym either Saturday or Sunday. So part of this organization and part of these setting boundaries might be giving yourself buffer time. If you want to go to the gym 3 days a week or 4 days a week, you might have to calendar it for 4 days or 5 days or 6 days or 7 days and just know you're going to hit it those times. So those are my 2 caveats about boundaries. Know when you're going to break them and know when you have the buffer to get more done, right? I mean, this is Iron Man's I Love You 3000, right? Like even Iron Man sets boundaries. It might take Pepper Potts yelling at him to do that, but like it's a real thing. So I personally review all of this stuff weekly. I have a Monday morning meeting with my executive team where we look forward for the next 2 weeks, making sure we followed up with anything, making sure we've confirmed lunches, we've confirmed Topgolf, we've confirmed whatever. And then on Thursdays, I have a half an hour meeting where we review what we did not get to, what issues arose, what other things come in. So weekly, I'm looking at those things. You know, where do I need to tweak a boundary? For example, you're listening to this, it's over spring break. My child does not have school. Luckily enough, thank you. My in-laws, you're the best, are watching my child this week. So normally I leave work at 1:30 to get to his school by 2 to pick him up early. They have a release early on Wednesdays, every Wednesday. So that becomes our afternoon during the week to have just father-son time. This week he's on spring break. So my team, we talk through it, and now they book me until 5 o'clock on Wednesday because my son's not even here. So what's the point of me getting the boundary of getting out of the office by 1:30 to go pick him up if that's not going to happen? And so by reviewing these things weekly and having those views, it's easy to see where we can move those boundaries. You're listening to this on Tuesday. This Friday, my newsletter comes out. If you're looking for more on this topic, I've got 10 tips for working correctly. So how to focus better at work, how to set the right hours. We're going deeper on this. So if you're looking for that, I would suggest sign up for my newsletter. It's totally free, and grab that on Friday. So I hope it will help from there. The next thing is we need to balance variety is the spice of life with you are what you consistently do. Excellence, therefore, is not a once thing, it's a habit, right? It's not an action, it's a habit. So we need to balance those two things. So that's why I say, like, you're not making these lists to ruin your life. You're making these lists to support your life. You're embedding joy into your routines to help you stay consistent, to help you stick to this, to help you really enjoy it. It doesn't matter for you to be the most disciplined and hardworking person if you're miserable. So how do we bring fun into it? You know, I had a great chat. Excuse me. Had a great email chat with Neil Tyra a while ago. I posted about the 170 books that I read for last year, and he basically very nicely asked me why so many books. And I told him it's enjoyable. I like it. I feel accomplished. If I sat down in front of the TV and I binge watch a season of a TV show, I do not feel as good about it as if I sat down on the same couch and instead of binging the TV show, read for 4 hours. That's just me. Is there really a difference between those things? Probably not. However, in my head and in many heads, we view books as more important than TV or movies. And certainly, like, I'm reading mostly business development, self-development, you know, helpful books along those lines. I do try to work in a good amount of fiction. And I really like story-driven nonfiction. Super cool. Whereas when it comes to TV, yes, I watch some documentaries, but a lot of it is more entertainment. And so, yeah, there probably is some sort of slight benefit, but I'm just telling you how I feel. So I'm embedding those things into my habit into my rituals, into my week, into my time to really enjoy this. So I like reading. So I build in time to read. If I'm listening to an audiobook, I basically have stopped listening to music in the car, except when I'm bringing my son to school and he wants to listen to it. Otherwise, it's an audiobook. I'm going for a 45-minute plus walk or jog or ruck every day, usually with an audiobook. If I get back to the house at 6:50 and I'm waking my son up, or I guess he's being woken up by Alexa at 7:10, 7:15, it's really easy for me to use that time to go and pull out a book and read it. So like I am embedding the things that I like into this consistency. If I get out the door slower, if I do my, I guess I guess the distance of a 45-minute walk, if it happens to be slower, if there's something else, if there's construction and I change my route and I mistimed it, then I can scrap the book time, but it's there, right? So this could be waking up to specific music that you love. This can be journaling in the morning with your really great cup of coffee. This can be, if you're doing this to get home and spend time with the family. If you do it all week, reward yourself with a family dinner at the restaurant you all love. Like really figure out ways to embed this joy into the consistency of this organization of a great life. Because ultimately, like, no one cares if you accomplished everything you set out to do. We care what impact that has. And in this case, the impact I'm looking for is your happiness, your family's happiness, your employees' happiness, your clients' happiness, based upon you doing what you said you were going to do, right? Again, it's all about that life over lists. It's your life. It's not just tasks. Systems should serve your life, not the other way around, right? Like Batman is not organizing the Batcave for the aesthetics. He's doing it so that when he needs to drop everything and go fight the Joker or the Penguin or Mr. Freeze or whomever, he knows where everything is, right? Like he is organizing the Batcave so that he can go out to all these galas and then also swoop in at the last minute to save everybody from the villains. Your organization should not be done because it has to. It should be done so it maximizes the time that you have to do these things. So like I said, I have that meeting on Mondays and Thursdays with my executive assistant now. That is to maximize their 40 hours or their 80 hours a week now that there's two of them, so that more of the right things get done. It is worth it for me to spend that hour and a half in meetings to maximize the other 70, well, I guess there's two of them, 77 hours or whatever that breaks down to, 38.5 hours each to get it done. So you need to have the organization of a great life in a way that serves the purposes you're looking for. If you brain dumping at night, like I said to do, ends up keeping you up until 1 o'clock in the morning, fretting about everything and worrying about it, don't brain dump at night. Maybe for you, it's better to brain dump in the morning and get it down and then prioritize what you're going to do that week so you can actually do the things that come from it. Like figure out the stuff that works for you. I want you to think about the systems and service of the life you want, not just task completion. So if you really do care about the clothing that you wear, then maybe organize it in your closet in that Roy G. Biv scheme, right? Like if you like having your hobby of art, don't have a junk drawer with the art supplies, have the 3 or 5 tier, have an easel, have the stuff out, like really come up with the systems that make sense for you. So just to take everything I touched on here into a specific thing, I have a process. I've got the Monday meeting that sets up the next 2 weeks. I've got the Thursday meeting with my team where we review what happened. I also have a Thursday meeting personally to see like, where did I go off track? So at the Thursday personal meeting, I'm looking at my sleep from the previous week. I'm looking at my weight. I'm looking at my eating habits. I'm looking at my workout results. I'm going through like those personal things. It's half an hour every week for me to look at those things. And then I'll make tweaks from there. So for example, over this year so far, I've lost over 30 pounds, but in the last month, it's only been like 2 or 3 pounds. And so basically like I figured out I was eating like somebody, I have continued to eat like somebody who weighs what I weighed about a month ago. So now I'm looking at what are the next changes I need to make. So for me, that's probably lower carb for dinner. That's probably swapping out, one meal for a protein smoothie or something like that. It's figuring out ways to get that right caloric deficit, right amount of protein, whatever, to get back to losing weight. It's not going to be a half a pound a day. That's not realistic and sustainable, but losing, a pound a week, a pound and a half a week for the next, 6 weeks, and then reassessing another, 10, 12 weeks after that, and then figuring out what helps me maintain the weight that I want while building muscle we'll make the tweaks from there. So that's what I have from that standpoint. And then monthly, I talked about my monthly meeting. So monthly on the fourth Thursday of the month, which is usually the last Thursday. Although I talked about this when I talked about monthly planning, I don't plan anything after the fourth Friday of the month. If there is an extra couple days after that, great. They're free time. We use them for quarterly planning. We use them for annual planning. We use them for extra vacation and having fun. Like I'm planning a 28-day month all the time for my months, regardless of how many days are in that month. And I talk about why when in the newsletter about weekly planning. So the fourth Thursday of every month, I have my monthly review. That's where my assistant comes to it with the amount of hours that I have open for the following week. So what slots do I not have a networking lunch booked that we want to? How many open hours do we have? What else? What other presentations? What else is dragging on my next month that we don't normally have? And then from those extra hours, we'll figure out how much more I can pull off my plate. So if we get there and I've got 20 extra hours, great. This is a time to grab a new book idea. This is a time to put together another digital product for us to sell. This is a time to reassess from SOPs. If we get in and I'm going on vacation for an entire week or going to a conference and I have 5 extra hours, it's not the time to grab those things, right? So I know that I've got that monthly meeting to look at upcoming vacations, to look at upcoming opportunities, to look at new ideas and whatnot, but I've got this meeting set to do it, to figure out how much of those things to pull and actually move into what I'm doing week to week and day to day to actually get them done. And then I do the same thing personally. I have a little bit more like, in essence, I'm basically looking for my ikigai. So it's a Japanese term that talks about like, what are you the best at? What brings you joy? What can you get paid for? What does the world need? How do you combine those things? So I spend an hour every month trying to really figure out my purpose deeper. At the end of the day, like that's what it's there for. What am I doing? What do I actually have to be doing? What's super important for me to be doing? What's the things that actually matter to my clients and to my employees? And then how do I get rid of other things? And sure, it takes, 10 seconds a time. However, at the point that you get to 100 clients, at the point that you get to, a 15,000 prior clients, like those 10 seconds adds up. So what are the things we can stop doing? Monthly, I'm looking at what are the things we can stop doing in that ikigai. What can I stop doing? Some of the stuff is going to get delegated to somebody else. Some of the stuff is going to get automated. Some of the stuff is going to get AI is going to take over. Some of the stuff is just going to get dropped. So I have those times in place because I also believe in the Pareto principle. 20% of your efforts gives you 80% of your outcomes. If we always knew what 20% that was, we'd be way more successful. So it's not always that easy, but I will start trying to think through that. So by thinking through my ikigai, by thinking through what I need to do, what brings me joy, what I'm the best at, what I can get paid for, what really requires me versus what requires one of my companies, I can get more specific about my job, about my tasks, about my goals, and then all this stuff gets organized down to other people. So if I decide, hey, I'm no longer going to send these emails, it's going to be the system. Now I need to sit down with excuse me. Now I need to sit down with the person who runs our automations, explain the outcome, and have them design the system. If they need me to review it, if we're just going to put in place, whatever it is, like come up with the right management thing behind it. But that becomes the important thing for us to do. Everything that I put on my plate, I'm trying to take 3 to 4 things off of my plate to follow that 80-20. So if I'm going to start checking in with former coaching clients on a monthly basis, and that's going to take me 30 minutes. Now I'm looking to get 2 hours off of my plate. How do I get those hours? That's half an hour a week that I'm getting off my plate to bring on half an hour a month onto my plate. So now I need to train my EA on sending bills to clients because that takes, 15 or 20 minutes every week for us to send out bills. So now, let's get that part going. And that will be the stuff that I can replace with the thing that is more important for me to be doing. You got to have this in cycle. And again, I'm talking about an hour, really 2 hours a week, right? So an hour on Mondays with my executive assistant, 30 minutes on Thursdays with them, 30 minutes without them, and then 2 hours at the end of the month. To be fair, though, those replace those other 2 hours. So what is that? That's 2 hours a week for 3 weeks. And then the 4th week is 3 hours. So that's 9 hours a month that I'm talking about. And so to be fair, if you have done none of those things, I want you to get 30 hours a week off of your plate to have these 9 hours. That being said, This month, we are selling the luau. We have opened the opportunity. It's going to start in May, so we are trying to get people lined up for it. What is this? This is a group community of like-minded business owners to get together and talk through these things. So if you want to hear from, 5, 10, 20, 100 other people about what they're doing to organize their life, this is the place to be. If you need the time to sit down and focus on these things, right? We talk about work-life balance. If you need the balance of focusing on your life, that's what the luau is designed to do. If you want to find a group of people who are talking about life first and longevity and not putting BPAs into their body and switching to, switching what they eat and buying organic and how they're getting home at 5 and how they're getting home at 3 and what they're doing with their EA, that's what the luau is designed for, right? So if you're listening to this and you think, yeah, this is great, but I don't have the time for it, you probably need an EA. And if you're saying this is great, but I don't know what else to do with my time or what to prioritize or how to find these things out, or if these things really work, then you need the luau. So please reach out. We'll get you access to go and check. And again, like I said, you're going to listen to this in April, or at least this is going to drop in April. We're going to start that in May. So we've got a couple weeks to get everything lined up and together. All right. So what do you do now? What I would love for you to do immediately is start putting things back where you first looked for them instead of putting them back where you found them. Start thinking through, where do you need more organization in your life and where can you do with less to save yourself time? Start putting together these weekly reviews ASAP. If you're already working 60 hours a week, it's not going to happen. You're not going to put 2 hours more on your calendar if you're already working 60 hours a week. If that's the case, I probably need you to hire an executive assistant or a paralegal or a lawyer. It's going to take you more time to get them up to speed. But if you never do that, you're always going to be working 60, 70, 80 hours. You're never going to have the opportunity to delegate to somebody else, right? So putting things back where you first thought of them, super easy thing to do. And then it's either getting the weekly meetings on your calendar or setting the time to hire somebody to get the time back to put the meetings on your calendar. If you're not sure exactly how to do this, like that's the coaching that I do with people on a one-on-one basis, is figuring out the right timeline for them. So if you don't know if it should be a lawyer or it should be a paralegal or it should be an executive assistant, like that's what I'm here to help you with on a one-on-one basis. We do as much free information as possible to give you the framework. But if you don't know how to apply it to yourself, like that's where you can reach out. Because ultimately, longer term, like you need to set boundaries to have that clarity, to have that peace of mind, to have the opportunity to do all these other things. And honestly, like if you don't know what your purpose is, I would suggest go back to our newsletter and write your obituary. It sounds macabre. For example, like I'm trying to think of what's been the most, okay. So like moving, right? Like a lot of us move to get our kid into a better elementary school or middle school or whatever, be closer to family or further away from family, whatever it is. Like having written my obituary, when opportunities like that come up and I can read through my obituary, what is in there, right? Like, do I talk about being tied to the area of Orlando between downtown and the airport in my obituary? No. Then it doesn't really matter if we move 20 minutes away, right? Like that's not something that has become important to me. Does it talk about spending time with my family? Yes. So then that becomes like, all right, well, my parents live 25 minutes away. My wife's parents live a couple hours away, but it's easy by a flight. Like, so we're not going to move to the middle of Montana and be super far away from everybody, right? Like having that obituary, it is shocking to me how many decisions it has helped me make because of things that were in there or were not in there, never having been the reason that I wrote it to begin with. And so when we talk about having the purpose for all of this, starting with that obituary really helps have that purpose, really helps you figure out what is important to you and what isn't. So you keep what's important, you double down on it, you delegate the stuff that's not, you automate the stuff that's not, you AI the stuff that's not, you drop the stuff that's not, and then you have a organizational structure in place that allows you to have a happy life, a great life. I would highly suggest that as you get these things in place, you start focusing on what to take away. Yes, I'm telling you to add putting things back where you first look for them. Yes, I'm telling you to add these review sessions. As soon as you have those in place, what can you take away? Because hiring people is to take away tasks that you don't want to do or don't need to do or should not be doing and putting them on other people. Putting together my 9 hours a month of meetings is so that you have time to think about what else to optimize, what else to prioritize, what else to get off of your plate. It's not because I'm in a race to eventually do nothing. It's because I have so many ideas. I have so many things that I want to be doing that I can't. And then ultimately having, what do I have? I have a meeting a week and an extra meeting a month designed to get things off of my plate and help me focus more. All right. As we get towards the end, I want to talk about our next episode. I touched on it briefly at the beginning. It's Guy Sakalakis and I talking about Stoicism. I love Stoicism for so many reasons. Guy loves Stoicism as well for so many reasons. Ultimately, Stoicism is very similar to Mind Like Water. It comes down to having the right response to the problems. It comes down to the serenity prayer, thinking about the things that we can control and the things that we can't, and knowing the difference. It comes down to in becoming the type of person that we want to be and watching how our habits have to change to get there. These are the same things as having a great life. If you freak out about everything, one, congratulations, you're an attorney, but two, congratulations, you're not going to be happy until you start changing about how you freak out to everything. So Stoicism can help, and therapy can help, and organization can help, and having a mind like water can help. These are different ways to the same outcome. But if you put in place this organizational structure and then tweak it to make sense for you, maybe that's a half an hour at the beginning of the week and an hour at the end of the week. Maybe it's just one meeting a week. I don't care what you end up with. I'm giving you the framework that's worked for me, and I hope I'm giving you the understanding of why that works for me and the team that I have to support it. But having that in place and then building off of that is what is going to help you have a happy life, right? Like, this is not you changing one thing and immediately loving life. This is enjoying the journey. This is knowing that if we're going to, live to be 80 or 100 or 120 by the time we get to that age, knowing that if we are always focused on our happiness, always focused on our joy, always focused on living a great life, always focused on our legacy, always focused on giving back, like whatever it is that we find value in, and then taking the steps to be able to do more towards that and less away from that, or less that doesn't matter for that, or less that doesn't help us get there, that's what we're going to find. That's when we're going to wake up one day and say, oh my God, I am really happy. I do have a great life. It is done in the minute to minute. It is done in the present through planning in the past, through planning for the future, reflecting on the past and doing it. So I hope those things will help. Yeah, I mean, your goals should be a life that you love. It should be organizing that mind like water. It should be channeling your inner Jedi. It should be finding the monk that's inside of you. All of these things are what become super helpful towards you having a great life, because ultimately, like, all of us should want to have a great life. All of us should want some sort of positive outcome, some sort of legacy, some sort of importance. But yet we let this get in the way, right? Our phones get in the way. We let everybody else's issues get in the way. We let our email inbox get in the way. So having this structure in place is the organization that I use to have a great life. If you need me to go deeper into any of it, please drop a comment, send me a message, check in. We've got the agendas for those specific meetings in newsletters. If not, I'll share them with you again. Like, really help me help you, and then help yourself through all these things. I hope this conversation about the organization of Great Life brings a ton of joy for you. I'll see you back here next week, because I know Stoicism will help all of us. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and I hope you enjoyed the newsletter on Friday. Goodbye.